Hello, everyone. So, welcome you all to another chapter of the JavaScript beginners tutorial. So, now we are on our chapter number 9, where I'll be showing you guys about different types of data in JavaScript. So, in our last class, we do have learned about variables and comment, and here we'll be talking about different kind of data available in JavaScript. So, let's not waste much time and let's get started. So over here on my screen, as you guys can see now, I do have opened up the JavaScript file, which I do have created. And here I do have explained you guys about variables and data types. And in the variables class or in the last class, I have told you guys that variables are like containers inside which you guys can store a different kind of data. Okay. So basically we are gonna talk about that. Okay. So let me just comment this thing out. Okay. So I'll just comment this one out and I will name this one as number 5 and I will name this particular thing as different data types. Okay. So I'll just come here. Let's type different data types. And as you guys can see now, what are the different kind of data types? As you guys can see, primarily, we gonna use two different kind of datas. Okay. So the first one, what we're gonna use is a string. So inside a variable, you guys can store a string or a text. So if you do want to store a string or text, what you're gonna do first is you guys need to write var for variable, and now you guys can name anything to your variable. Okay, so let's name this one as text1. Okay, and let's give it up a space and let's put equals to, and you can store a string inside a single quote or inside a double quote. So let me show you. Let me just create up a double quote and I'll just type this is string 1. Okay. So as you guys can see, I do have written this is string 1. And also to close this thing down, you guys can use the semicolon. And if you don't use as well, you guys don't have to. Okay, so I'll just copy this first thing, Control C to copy, Control V to paste. And now let's come here and let's change the name text2 and I'll just type this is string 2. Okay, so I'll just come here and let's type this is string 2. So over here, as you guys can see, this is basically known as the string data type. So let me just comment this one out and let me just type string. Okay, so this is the first kind of data. Let's come down and over here now let's, if you do want to print it, you guys can just type console.log over here. Otherwise, let's save this one first. Let's come to my website and over here, if I just refresh this particular page, you guys will be able to see that as well. Okay, so now let's come right over here. Otherwise, if you do want to create a new one, let's come here and let's open this thing up. Let's go to this HTML file. From here, now open with live server. Let's right click. Let's click on inspect. And over here, let's go to my console. Okay. And from here, as I have already mentioned of the variable, I can type console.log. And if I just open my bracket and over here, I can mention that to print, let's say, what was the name of the variable over here. Let's go to this index page. Let's say text1. Okay, so let's come over here. Okay, so let's come over here and from here let's type text1. So as you guys can see, and I will just close this thing down. And if I just click enter, you guys can see that over here I do have this particular string. So let's come here and let's select this thing up, right click, let's copy, let's paste this thing. And over here, if I do want to print the text too, I can come here, let's click on enter, and here you guys can see this particular text is being printed as well. So I can just do it over here in my console inside my server. Otherwise, I can go into my VS Code, and from here I can just put console.log and I can print it as well. Okay. So instead of double quote, if you just use the single quotation over here, let's say if I'm using single quote on one side, I need to make sure that I use the same type of quotation on both the sides. Okay, I need to make sure of that. But now if I just come here and if I just go back, you guys will see that there is no changes. Okay, console.log, and over here let's go with text2. Let's click on enter, and here you guys can see again I do have this one known as this is string 2. Okay, so this is the first kind of data type known as a string. Now let me show you guys about the second type of data type, which is a number. Okay, so if you do want to store numbers, so the same way you just need to type var, and after that I will just type number 1 equals to 66. Let's click on enter. Let's type var. Let's put number 2 equal to 88. Okay, so in the same way, if you basically don't want to put out the semicolon, it will still work as well. So if you just want to come over here and go with console.log, and now let's go with number 1 divided by number 2. And if you do want to run it, Control S, let's go back to my server. You guys can see I do have the answer of 0.75. Okay, so this is how you guys can do some mathematical equation, or the same way you guys can just show one singular number. Okay, so you guys can come here, and without the semicolon as well, it will be reflected over here. As you guys can see, now this is showing me 66 as the variable value 66, this number 1. So this is the second type of data. And the third type of data is basically known as a object. Okay, so now we are going to learn about object. So let me just comment this one out, and let me just type object. Let's come down, and an object basically contains key component values. Okay, so if you do have used any other, like if you do have used Python programming language, inside Python, if you just know about the data type, which is known as a dictionary, like they do have multiple datas inside a dictionary. And there, inside the dictionary, we guys can actually put out multiple values. So let me just show you guys with an example. So for that also, I need to type var. And now I have to make sure that I name this particular variable. Okay, so let's come here. Let's name this object as CBC. Okay, so let me just go with CBC, which is the total blood count. And once you click on the equals to sign, you need to open the curly bracket. Okay, so I'll just come here. I will just put out the curly bracket. Let's click on enter, and over here now let's type. Okay, so HB is equal to, and to give some value to the element, okay, what you need to do is you need to use the colon. Let's go and let's put 23. Let's come down and let's go with WBC. And from here, again, let's put 76. Let's click on enter. Let's come down and let's put RBC. Over here, let's put 75. Let's click on enter. Over here, let me just give any values. Okay, it can be anything. So over here I'm just showing you guys an example, so here you guys can do it with marks as well. Okay, so you guys can come here and you guys can basically do it with marks. So let's come here, RBC. Then after that I will just go with the platelets. Let's go with 64. Let's click on enter. I will just go with the ESR and let's give the value of 11. Okay, so as you guys can see over here, I do have these different kind of components inside, and inside this component, each of this thing basically do have a value inside of them. Okay, so over here, if I do want to print this thing out, let's come here, let's come down, and now let's try to go to my console. And over here in my console, if I just type console dot log, let's open this bracket, and over here, let me just type the name. Okay, so let me just type CBC. Okay, and let's close down this particular bracket over here. So let's clear this thing out again. And from here, let's type console.log. And over here now, if I just go with console.log CBC, and here it's showing me that the CBC is not defined. Okay, so over here, Control S. Otherwise, if you do want to close this thing down, let's say if you do want to close this particular object right over here, this object kind of data type. So for that, as you guys can see, I do have different kind of values over here. So the thing which I was doing wrong is I was not separating them. Okay, so you guys can come here and basically you guys can separate all of this individually. Okay, so now Control S. Let's go to my HTML file. Let's right click. Let's open it in the live server. Let's right click. Let's go to inspect. And from here, now, if I just type console.log and let's type CBC. Okay, so as you guys can see, I do have the CBC right over here. Let's close this thing down. And if I just click this one, and here you guys can see, now I do have all the values which I did have inside the object. Okay, so over here, as you guys can see, now I do have the value of each and everything. As you guys can see, I do have 5 elements inside my object. You guys can see that I do have 5 elements right over here. Okay, if you want to see, you guys can come here. You guys can just drop this menu down and you guys will be able to see that I do have the 5 objects, and individually, if I want to work with anything, I can come here and I can work with anything. And here you guys can see the prototype is an object. Okay, so now you guys can come here and this is how you guys will be able to make an object inside. Okay, let's go to my JS file, and this is basically the object data type. So you guys can put multiple data. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you name that, and again you put equal to sign and open the curly bracket, and inside the curly bracket you need to put all your values, and let's say these are the key. Okay, so these are known as the key, by which your value is defined, and each key do have a value. Okay, you guys can put the value in string as well. Okay, you guys can use string and use numerical values as well. Totally depends up to you. So this is the third kind of data type. So now let's comment this out and let's show you guys about the fourth data type known as the Boolean values. Okay, so what are Boolean values basically? So Boolean values are just true and false. Okay, so if I just create a var, let's say var x. Okay, so I will just put equals to true. Okay, so let's put this one as true and let's come down. Let's put var y equals to false. Okay, so this is how you guys can actually create up a true and false variable. And the same way, if you do want to come over here inside the console, okay, so Control S to save it. Let's come to my console and over here, let's go with console.log and let's name this one as X. Okay, and if I just click on enter here, you guys can see that I do have the true value. But the same way, let's come here. Let's just copy this one. Copy from here. Let's paste this thing and let's put two values. X, comma, Y. And if you click on enter here, you guys can see I do have both the values of both the variables. So the first one is true and the second one is false. Okay, so here we do have seen about four different types of data. Okay, so the first one is a string, the second one is a number, then an object, then I do have Boolean values. Okay, so mostly if I tell you guys that we are going to use string and number and also object sometimes, but we're not going to use Boolean values that much. So you guys might not agree with me, but when we're doing some big projects, we might hardly use the Boolean values in many cases. Okay, but it might be different for you, depends on the project you guys are doing. Okay, so here we do have the Boolean values. Okay, so now the data type about which we're gonna learn over here is basically an undefined variable. Okay, so over here, what do you mean by undefined? Okay, so let me just come here and let me just comment this out and I will just name this one as undefined variable. Let's come down. And this particular type of variable, they don't have any kind of value. Okay, so if I just type var and afterwards you guys can just name this one as anything. Let's say if I come here and if I just name this one as ABC and after typing ABC, let's put equal to sign. And now if I just type undefined, as you guys can see here, it shows that this particular variable is known as undefined. Okay, so if I just type this thing down as undefined and now let's come down and let's type console.log. Let's open up the bracket and if I just type undefined over here, you guys will be able to see that it will print undefined. Okay, Control S and let's go to my console and over here just underneath the 66 value, you guys can see it's written undefined right over here. Okay, so this is how it's written undefined. Well, let me come over here and let's click on Control S and over here now let's say if I just put the value of ABC and Control S, let's come over here, let's run this particular server again, it will show me undefined right over here. Because ABC doesn't contain anything. Okay, so over here inside my VS Code, inside the console.log, I do have put ABC, but the ABC variable doesn't have anything inside, like it is undefined. Okay, so this is a different data type known as undefined data type. But now I want you to remember one thing. Okay, so over here now, as you guys can see that I do have named this one as ABC equals to undefined. But the main part over here, I want you guys to focus. Let's say I do have typed the variable as ABC, but instead of providing any value, if I just close this thing directly over here, and now if I just give the command of console.log and I'm telling him to print ABC inside the console. Let's Control S to save it. Let's go back to my server. And if I just play this thing around, you guys can still see that it will return me undefined instead. Okay, so I'll just close this thing down. And again, let's go to my HTML page over here. Let's open with the live server. Let's right click, let's go to inspect. You guys will be able to see that here it is showing me undefined as the answer. Okay, because whether you do have proof or whether you do have provided a value or not, over here it will show you undefined because it doesn't have any value. You don't have to write undefined itself. It will just understand that, well, as you don't have provided any value to it, this particular value is undefined. So this is another kind of variable which can be used, and the similar type of data type which we're gonna learn over here is known as the null data type. Okay, so I will just come here, and basically a null data type is kind of similar, but over here I need to make sure that I do mention it inside. Okay, so if I come here and if I just name this one as NA equal to null. Okay, so over here you guys can see I do have mentioned this one as null. Let's click on enter, console.log, open parenthesis, and over here if I just type NA and Control S to save it, if I just go back to my server, just underneath the undefined, you guys can see null is being printed. Okay, so here console.log NA, but the value of NA is null. Okay, so this is the data type as well if you want any of your variable to be null. Okay, so this is the kind of data type which we guys will be using. So over here we do have learned about string, number, object, boolean values, undefined variable, and null data type. Well, so I hope till this much it was clear. And now the next type of data which we're gonna learn is basically an array. Okay, but before moving on to array, let's try to understand that at the higher level of learning JavaScript, the data types are basically categorized into two different parts. Okay, so for that, let's come down and over here, let's comment this thing out. Okay, otherwise, let's just come here and let me just use the multiple line of commenting out. Let's come here and over here, let's put up an asterisk. Let's click on enter. And over here now, let's type at the higher level, datas are divided in two different categories. Okay, so the first one over here, it is defined as primitive data type, And also I'll show you guys that what all comes under the primitive data type. And the second point over here, let's come here, let's click on enter, control V. So the first one is primitive data type, and the second one is the reference data type. Okay, so I will just type reference data type. So under this primitive data type, we basically do have strings. Okay, so we do have the numbers, we do have the booleans, we have the null, undefined, and symbols. Okay, so symbols is another data type, so I don't want to confuse you guys by telling about symbols right now, but all you need to understand at this point of time is that symbol is also a data type which actually holds up a value. Okay, so if I just start telling you guys about symbols, so this is an advanced level thing. So let's try to understand that string, numbers, booleans, null, and undefined, and symbols, these are the 6 data types which comes under the primitive data type. And under the reference data type, we do have arrays and objects. Okay, so here, this are primitive data type, and this one is a reference data type. So let's come here. Let me just close this thing down. Okay, so I do have come here, and also I do have closed these comment or multiple line of comments over here. Okay, so we do have already learned that what string, numbers, booleans, null, undefined is. We do have also seen about objects. So if I just come back over here in object, you guys can see once I was defining object here, it is basically defined using a curly bracket. So inside the curly bracket, I do have double component values over here. These are the key component, and each key component basically do have a value, and those are differentiated by a comma in each line. So you guys can just put it beside as well. So how an array is different. So if you do want to type an array, you need to understand that an array basically contains more than one element. Okay, so you guys can actually store multiple element inside one array, and inside the array you guys can have different type of data type. Like you will be able to store a number, you will be able to store a string, you will be able to store a boolean value at the same array. So if you do want to type array, what you need to do is you guys can name it anything. Okay, let me just name this one as array. Let's come here, let's put out the equals to sign, and as you guys can see, for object we do have used the curly bracket over here to define array. I need to make sure that I use the square bracket. Okay, so I'll just come here, I will just use up the square bracket, otherwise I can just put this one at the same line. Okay, let's go back, and over here let me just put out a number. Let's say 6, 8, 22, and let's come here, let's just put up a string. Let's say Nathan. Let's come here and let's store up a boolean value. Let's say true. So over here, I will just put out a boolean value. Let's come here, and over here, let's put out another string using the double quote. Let's say Brent. Okay, so I will just name Brent over here, and this is a array, and this is how you just basically type an array. So as I have array right over here, let me just name this one an array as well. Let's come right over here, let's click on enter, and now let's comment this thing out, and let's type array. Okay, so let's come down, And if I just go back to my console, let's come over here. Let's go to, and over here, let's type console.log, and let's name, or let's put up the name of that particular array. So here you guys can see I do have array. Let's close this thing down. And if I click on enter, you guys can see that over here now I do have all the components which I had inside my array. So here it's showing me that I do have 6, 8, 22, Nathan, True, and Brad. And if you guys take a look, it contains different kind of data types. So the first three are variables like numbers. Okay, over here I do have two text and one Boolean value. And also let me show you guys that here you guys can just put some number with point as well. Okay, Control S. Let's come over here, and if I just type console.log, let's type array. Let's click on enter, and here you guys can see now you do have the number with 22.76 as well. And at first you guys can see here you do have 6 because it signifies that inside your array we do have 6 elements. Okay, and from here, let's say I don't want to see the whole array which I have over here. Okay, inside here I just want to see this number 6. Okay, so now before that, let me just tell you guys about a simple thing. So this class is taking a bit longer, but I want you guys to understand. So the thing which we're gonna learn is about index numbering. Okay, so let's come down, and over here let's put A, B, C, D, E, F. Come down, let's comment out. And here, as you guys can see, if I do have 6 components over here. So in programming, how the numbering works is the numbering starts from 0. Let's say it will be known as 0, then 1, then it will be known as 2. Over here, it's 3. This one will be 4. And this one will basically be 5. Okay, but the same way, if I come here and if I want to do the minus numbering, it will just start from -1 from the right hand side. If I start counting from the left hand side, so it will just go as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But if I want to do the minus marking, it will basically start from -1, then I will have -2, -3, -4, -5, and -6. Okay, so let me just show you guys by printing that thing out. Okay, so let's come over here into my live server, and here in the live server, let's go and let's type console.log, and let's open the parenthesis. Over here, let's type array, and let's open up the square bracket. And over here, if I just type 0, let's close down the square bracket. Let's close down the parenthesis as well. And if I click on enter, here you guys can see now over here, I do have the value 6. Okay, and why I do have the value 6 over? If you go to the VS Code, you will see that the first object inside your array, or the first element inside your array, is number 6. So the index number 0 is here. The index number 1 is over here. This is number 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and the same way, if you want to come here, and let's say I do want to copy this thing, let's come over here, and from here, now let's just Control C. Let's come down, let's click on Control V, and instead of 0, let's put -1. Okay, and if I just click on enter, here you guys can see that now this minus thing is basically not working. Okay, so this one shows me that this is undefined. Okay, so about this we will learn later, but I do have told you guys about the index numbering. So make sure that you keep that particular thing in mind. But over here, using the index number, if you want to have multiple objects as well, let's say from here, I want to have the elements of 2, comma 4. Okay. And if I just come here and if I just click on enter, here you guys can see now I do have the value of 4. Okay, so here you guys can see this is 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, so inside an array, if you do want to mention, so you guys will be able to mention only one number at once, which is another thing to remember. Okay, so let me just clear down my console, and from here let's type console.log. Let's open parenthesis, let's type array, and let's come here, let's type 2, and let me just close down the square bracket. Let me close down the parenthesis over here, and if I just click on enter, you guys can see I do have the answer as 22.76. And here you guys can see the number which I have mentioned inside my array variable is 22.76. Okay, so I hope you guys to have understood this class on different kind of data type. I do understand that this class was quite longer, so let me just go through all of this again. So the first data type which we have learned is about the string. The second one is about numbers. The third data type is the object data type. The fourth which we have learned is the Boolean values data type. The fifth one is the undefined variable. Okay, how you will be able to use an undefined variable. What is a null data type? We do have categorized all our data types in two different categories if we are working at the higher level. So the first one is the primitive data type, and the second one is the reference data type. And lastly, we do have learned about arrays. Okay, how you will be able to mention only one element from the whole array, and also able to see that how many element is present inside the array as well. And also we do have learned about index numbering. So yeah, I hope to see you all in the next chapter where we're gonna learn more about JavaScript itself. So see you all in the next chapter. Till then, take care and goodbye everyone.